Jallianwala Bagh, a name etched in sorrow, a horrific turning point in India's freedom struggle. The film Kesari 2 attempts to capture this dark chapter through the life of a prominent figure, Sir Sankaran Nair. But when Bollywood takes on history, how much is fact and how much is purely fiction? We've done a deep dive, scrutinizing the film point by point. Forget a simple movie review. This is a rigorous fact check. Does the cinematic story hold up against the historical record? Let's investigate. The film opens in the tense atmosphere after World War. We see Jallianwala Bagh, a young boy watching a plane overhead through paper binoculars as a crowd gathers. Fact check. Accurate. A reconnaissance plane did fly over the Bagh on April 13, 1919. The film shows the boy distributing Rowlatt Act pamphlets. Fact check. Plausible. Certainly fitting the widespread protests against the repressive act. So far, so good. But the plot quickly introduces intriguing threads. It touches upon Britain's broken promises after Indians fought in
World War I, July 28, 1914,
November 11, 1918.
highlighting Punjab's immense contribution. Fact check. Accurate context.
Then, the name Kirpal Singh surfaces. Who was he?
Historically, a notable Kirpal Singh was known for revealing the Ghadar conspiracy details to the British in 1915. Keep that date in mind. But here he is a professor who inspires students to take up revolutionary activities. Now here's where the movie's narrative takes a sharp turn from documented history. It portrays Nair being approached after World War I by Dyer and his advisor to prosecute this Kirpal Singh. We're told revolutionaries like Khudiram Singh and Barinder Kumar, who were his disciples, had already been imprisoned. The film then spins a tale. Nair successfully jails Kirpal Singh and as a reward receives his knighthood recommendation directly from Dyer
On the day the massacre unfolded.
Wow, what patriotism! Fact check. Hold on. This timeline is dramatically convenient, but historically false.
Nair was knighted way back in 1912, long before these events. The real Kirpal Singh's known actions were in 1915.
By 1919, Nair wasn't seeking favors. He was a senior member of the Viceroy's Executive Council. The film seems to be deliberately shuffling dates and motives, likely for dramatic impact, creating a connection that simply didn't exist.
Let's continue peeling back the layers.
Visually, the film shows the Punjab Samachar newspaper burning. Fact check. Questionable detail. While nationalist papers were vital and suppressed, this specific image needs verification versus being symbolic cinema. The film references Khooni Baisakhi, the Bloody Baisakhi, a term powerfully evoking the massacre's horror. However, the narrative also seems to echo the British justification, hinting the crowd might have had arms or that Dyer was crushing a violent rebellion. Fact check. Misleading. History, confirmed by the official Hunter Commission, is clear. The gathering was unarmed and peaceful. Dyer's claim of suppressing rebellion is widely recognized as a self-serving excuse. Interestingly, the term Khooni Baisakhi itself originates from a famous poem of the same name, written by Nanak Singh, an eyewitness to the tragedy. While his powerful poem was published shortly after, the British authorities swiftly banned it and confiscated copies, deeming it seditious. Consequently, while the term was coined almost immediately, it's highly improbable that newspapers of the time, whether British-controlled or even nationalist papers, operating under severe censorship, would have dared to print the inflammatory phrase Khooni Baisakhi widely. The term gained its lasting power largely through oral history and the legacy of the banned poem itself. We see the young boy from the start, searching a morgue for his mother. Were the bodies dumped in the river? Fact check. Complex reality. Contrary to potential cinematic depictions of river dumping, the undeniable horror documented by history was the impact of Dyer's curfew. This cruel order sealed off the Bagh, trapping victims inside overnight and preventing desperate families from reaching the dead or wounded, leaving them completely abandoned. The film reportedly uses the term terrorist for the victims.
Fact check. Reflects colonial view? Terrorist really?
This language chillingly mirrors the dehumanizing perspective of the colonial administration, which often labeled protesters seditionists or terrorists. The victims were unarmed civilians. On the death toll, the British said it was 1,650.
The hospital record figure 10,312. Fact check. Contested numbers.
The actual count is tragically disputed. The British admitted only 379. Indian sources estimated over 1,000.
Perhaps aligning with the film 1650. The 10,312 number seems improbable for deaths, perhaps related to wounded or wider figures.
What's undeniable? The true toll was far higher than the official British figure. Compensation is depicted, a paltry 50 rupees via an English form, pardoning the Crown upon acceptance. Fact check. Partially true. Inadequate compensation was eventually offered.
Fraught with bureaucracy.
English forms were a barrier. But Mayor personally assisting with individual forms? No record exists. It's likely a dramatic touch.
Dialogue shows Nair confronting O'Dwyer's assistant about the death count and the victims or terrorists. Libel.
Fact check. Fictionalized scene. This specific conversation is
Almost certainly invented.
However, the underlying conflict is real. Nair fundamentally opposed the official narrative, culminating in his powerful resignation from the Viceroy's Executive Council, his true protest against O'Dwyer's regime. The film shows Nair visiting the boy, now named Pargat, offering him schooling in Kerala at an institution founded in memory of his wife. Fact check. Anachronistic. Another timeline problem.
The school named for Lady Sankaran Nair was established much later. While Nair was an educationist, the specific offer, tied to that school in that time frame, is likely fictional. Then a plot twist, the boy in the starting, remember, he is revealed as Pargat Singh, son of Kirpal Singh.
Okay, and Pargat Singh, real person.
No, purely fictional.
Why do that, do you think?
Well, probably to create a direct personal connection for the audience between Nair and the tragedy itself. Make the horror feel more immediate, you know?
But that risks simplifying things, maybe overshadowing the real victims.
It certainly could. It's a narrative choice aiming for emotional resonance, but it does simplify the complex reality of the time.
Okay, another fictional character. Dilreet Gill, the lawyer.
Yes, the one shown filing a lawsuit against General Dyer for genocide in India, supposedly judged by McCarty.
And this lawsuit.
Complete fabrication. Never happened. There is no genocide trial against Dyer in India like that.
But wait, didn't the film get something right in that scene?
It did, oddly enough. Within this made-up trial, Gill correctly names the troops involved.
The ones who did the shooting.
Exactly. Elements of the 2nd-9th Gorkhu rifles and the 59th Sindh rifles.
And she even notes they were Nepali Gurkhas. And
Pakistani soldiers.
So, accurate detail inside a completely fictional event. Strange mix. Why put a fake genocide trial in India? The real legal fight was different, wasn't it?
Massively different. The real case involving Nair was libel, not genocide, and it was in London, not India, years later, and against O'Dwyer, not Dyer directly in that way.
So why the change in the film? To make it more dramatic?
Likely. Framing it as genocide in India probably aims to hit harder emotionally, stress the injustice on Indian soil, but it completely obscures the actual legal reality and challenges Nair faced. It sacrifices accuracy for impact.
And there are more fictional characters too, right? Advocate Neville McKinley and Tanveer Chaudhary.
Tanveer Chaudhary is involved in a disturbing rape subplot.
Again, entirely invented for the film's drama. No basis in historical fact.
Let's talk about Sir Sankaran Nair himself. The film shows his big awakening moment coming from being kicked out of a dogs and Indians not allowed area and insulted by Dyer.
Right. And while those kinds of racist signs and incidents were sadly very real and offensive,
Pinning Nair's whole change of heart just on that.
it's a huge oversimplification.
Yeah.
It really downplays his documented, principled stand, his resignation from the Viceroy's council.
Which was a massive deal, a protest against the official whitewash of the Punjab atrocities.
Exactly. And it wasn't just a feeling. He wrote a formal letter of resignation. A powerful political act.
We actually have another resource looking deeper into Nair's life for anyone interested after this. It shows the contrast, doesn't it, between that formal act and the film's simple insult trigger.
It really does.
Yeah.
Simplifying his motives like that might fit a standard movie plot, the single event that changes everything.
The film also shows Nair voting not guilty regarding Dyer, and his vote being ignored.
Pure fiction. 100% made up. Because Nair had already resigned. Months before the Hunter Commission, the official inquiry even put out its report. He wasn't on the council to vote on anything related to Dyer by then.
Okay. Then the film goes further, showing Nair detained for national security, jailed, becoming a spy.
Also completely false. No historical evidence for any of it.
And the bit about him being jailed for swearing?
Utterly fictional. These additions might add drama, maybe suspense, but they seriously distort what Nair actually went through and the political realities.
So things like the invented death of Pargat Singh, Nair meeting the fictional lawyer Dilreet Gill, they're all part of this pattern.
Seems so. Plot devices rather than history.
Okay, let's circle back to the legal battle, because the film really muddles this, as you said.
It really does. Film shows Dilreet Gill versus Dyer, genocide charge in India, Judge McCarty presiding.
Reality.
So Sankaran Nair versus Michael O'Dwyer, the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, Dyer's superior, charge, libel, location London year, 1924.
And the judge.
Mr. Justice McCarty did preside, but over the libel trial in London, not a fictional genocide trial in India.
So the film mixes up the defendant, the charge, the place, the judge's context, everything.
Pretty much. It creates a completely different legal narrative, which can really mislead people about what actually happened.
What about Kanhaiya Lal from Patiala? He is in the film?
His specific role is shown, especially if portrayed as a poet involved in those events, seems likely fictionalized. Historically, he was known as a judge.
And the plane. The film suggests it was used for surveillance before the massacre, almost to calculate casualties.
Well, planes were used for reconnaissance around that time, that's true. But phrasing it as a deliberate pre-calculation of deaths at Jallianwala Bagh, that feels like dramatic license, adding a layer of cold-blooded planning that isn't specifically documented that way.
There's also a scene with a protest near the
Katra Ahluwalia police station on the massacre day, April 13th, and a Tehsildar Kartar Singh is mentioned.
Right, Katra Ahluwalia is a real place?
And there were major protests around April 10th.
But this specific protest on the 13th, at that station with that official doing what the film shows?
Almost certainly fictionalized. Invented for the narrative arc leading up to the massacre scene itself.
However, the film does touch on something historically vital, right? The Hindu-Muslim unity.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the Ram Navami unity demonstrations.
Yeah.
Led by figures like Dr.
Satyapal Singh and Saifuddin Kichlu.
That was real, and it genuinely worried the British authorities.
And the timeline the film presents around that.
That part is largely accurate. The unity efforts around April 9th, the arrests of leaders like Kichlu and Satyapal on the 10th, sparking huge protests, and then the massacre at the planned meeting on the 13th. That sequence is key context.
Understanding that sequence helps explain the tensions, why Dyer might have acted as he did, however horrific his actions were.
Exactly. It provides the crucial backdrop.
The film also hints the British tried to assassinate Nair. Any truth to that?
None that we know of. No historical evidence supports it. Seems like pure movie suspense.
And other scenes like British people protesting against Nair in India, or a British soldier vomiting instead of shooting.
Highly unlikely. Sounds like dramatic invention to heighten emotion or create specific character beats. Not based on accounts at the time.
What about advocate Neville McKinley warning Dyer?
Another movie invention, it seems. Part of the fictional framework built around the real events.
Let's talk Dyer's backstory as the film presents it. Mental issues, bullied at Bishop Cotton School in Shimla, racist father.
Okay, bit of a mix here. He did go to Bishop Cotton School. That's factual.
But the mental state or bullying claims?
Largely speculative. Hard to prove or disprove definitively from standard historical records. His father, Edward Dyer, was a pioneer brewer in India. He founded breweries and famously invented old monk rum. So the film misrepresents that biographical detail.
Interesting. And those dramatic scenes, Dyer grabbing Nair's collar or Dyer's own lawyer calling him racist.
Almost certainly invented drama. These kinds of face-offs make for good cinema, but they aren't in the historical accounts of the real legal proceedings or interactions.
And the biggest distortion, perhaps, is the ending, the court case outcome.
Absolutely fundamental misrepresentation. As we said, the real case was Nair versus O'Dwyer, libel, London, 1924.
Nair lost.
And Nair lost the libel case. The film shows Dyer and the Crown essentially found guilty. A feel-good ending, maybe, but completely counter to historical fact.
What actually happened to Dyer?
He faced the Hunter Commission inquiry, was censured by the government, lost his command, and was forced into retirement. But he was never put on trial or found legally guilty for the massacre itself.
So, censure and retirement, but no legal conviction for the killings, and Nair lost his libel suit. Very different from the movie's triumphant ending.
Very different indeed.
Okay, but amidst all this fiction, the film must get some things right.
It does. For example, it shows the dead and wounded being locked inside the bag, abandoned for hours if the shooting stopped.
That happened.
The core truth is there. A strict curfew was imposed immediately, preventing anyone from entering or leaving to help the wounded or retrieve the dead. They were left there all night in horrific conditions. The inhumane abandonment is factual, even if specific phrasing like birds might be literal interpretation.
And Dyer saying he only stopped shooting because he ran out of ammunition.
That's chillingly accurate. He essentially said that in his testimony to the Hunter Commission. It showed his utter lack of remorse and the scale of his intent. The film got that right.
It also mentions Indian soldiers dying for Britain in World War I, often through forced recruitment.
Yes, that's vital context and historically accurate. Many Indians fought and died for the empire, often not entirely voluntarily, which added to the sense of betrayal and anger later.
And the crawling order.
Absolutely real. Dyer imposed an order forcing Indians to crawl on their hands and knees along a street where a British woman had been assaulted earlier. A deliberate, documented act of racial humiliation. The film is correct to portray that.
What about the day Gandhi is shown talking about Sankaran Nair defeating Dyer?
Well, Mahatma Gandhi certainly respected Nair's principled stand. His resignation was widely admired. But that specific quote, it sounds like cinematic license.
Manufactured to give Nair a victory he didn't actually achieve, at least not legally.
Precisely. It creates a sense of closure and triumph that the real, more complex history doesn't offer in the same way.
And the film does get Dyer's death right.
He died
On July 23, 1927, and there are historical reports suggesting he was troubled on his deathbed, perhaps seeking justification for Amritsar. The film reflecting that aligns with some accounts.
So, wrapping this up, Kesari 2 covers a critical moment, but wow, the differences from the historical record are huge.
They really are. Altered timelines, fictional characters and events, simplified motives, and a completely changed legal outcome, especially regarding Nair's libel suit.
But it's important to remember, Nair's real story is powerful on its own, isn't it? That resignation.
Immensely powerful. His courage in standing against the official narrative was significant, regardless of the later libel case outcome.
So this film is a perfect example, really, of why we need to engage critically with historical dramas.
Absolutely. Use them maybe as a starting point, but always go to reliable sources for the actual history. Get the nuanced picture.
So for everyone listening, what are your thoughts? If you saw the film, did these points stand out? Did these kinds of changes in historical movies interest you or bother you?
And maybe think about why filmmakers might choose to change the facts so much, even when saying inspired by true events. What's the impact when history gets reshaped like this for entertainment?
Definitely something to chew on. These deep dives, comparing the portrayal to the reality, are so important for getting that clear view of the past.